Number 10. Marc Walhberg. In 2013, a series of leaked court documents suggested that Tom Cruise had compared working on a film to being as intense as fighting in Afghanistan. It's safe to say that this statement did not go down well with Marc Walhberg. Later down the line, while he was promoting his film Lone Survivor, which was based on actual events of the failed 2005 mission Operation Red Wings, where Marc played the role of a Navy SEAL. When asked about the difficulty of shooting the film, he went on an angry rant. Quote, "For actors to sit there and talk about, oh, I went to SEAL training and I slept on the floor. I don't give an F what you did. You don't do what these guys did. For somebody to sit there and say, my job was as difficult as somebody in the military's, how effing dare you, while you sit in a makeup chair for 2 hours." He added that at the end of the day, actors get to go home, go to their hotel room and order effing chicken. Tom's lawyers then jumped in very quickly and claimed that the actor was only joking, and in fact is a staunch supporter of the troops, but the tension was very clearly real. Number 9. Thandie Newton. When speaking with Vulture, Newton revealed exactly why working with Tom Cruise on the 2000 film Mission Impossible was a total nightmare. When asked why she never filmed another movie in the franchise, the actress said, "Oh, I was never asked. I was so scared of Tom. He was a very dominant individual. He tries super hard to be a nice person." She described him as really stressed and dominant, recounting an incident on set in which she and Cruise attempted to finish a night scene on the balcony. Quote, "I don't think it was a very well written scene. I get angry with him, we're frustrated at each other, and Tom made a decision at the very beginning of the movie, unbeknownst certainly to me, that he didn't speak English, which I think was very helpful to him, but it was extremely unhelpful to the rest of us." Thandie went on to say that Tom got so frustrated with her performance that it just pushed her further into a place of terror and insecurity. But despite everything, Thandie insisted that she doesn't think poorly of Tom as a person. Quote, "He wasn't horrible, it was just that he was really stressed. But the pressure, he takes on a lot. I think he has this sense that only he can do everything as best as it can be done." Number 8. Brooke Shields. Telling women what they can and can't wear is one way to make yourself extremely unpopular among the female demographic, but telling them how to give birth is a different kind of insult entirely. Just ask Brooke Shields after she had to deal with public shaming from Tom Cruise, who went on the record criticizing her decision to use antidepressants to help her with postpartum depression. Quote, "When someone says medication has helped them, it is to cope. It didn't cure anything. There is no science. There is nothing that can cure them whatsoever." And if that wasn't condescending enough for you, he added, "I care about Brooke Shields because I think she's an incredibly talented woman, but look at where her career has gone." But Brooke was not having it and took the opportunity to stand up for herself and new mothers everywhere. She said, "Tom should stick to saving the world from aliens and let women who are experiencing postpartum depression decide what treatment options are best for them." Adding that, "I'm going to take a wild guess and say that Mr. Cruise has never suffered from postpartum depression." She called his comments a disservice to mothers everywhere and said that if any good can come of Mr. Cruise's ridiculous rants, let's hope that it gives much needed attention to a serious disease. Number 7. Brad Pitt. Although the two A-list actors have a lot in common, especially when it comes to their careers, they allegedly couldn't be more at odds with each other. In fact, rumors have it that they have been feuding for 25 years, and it all started with one movie, 1994's Interview with a Vampire. The hit horror film where both actors had starring roles really ignited their resentment for one another. And even though the film was nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe upon its release, Brad said that he was miserable on set and that Tom being there certainly didn't help. And when asked about his co-star in an interview, Brad did not bother to hold back his feelings at all. Quote, "He bugged me. There came a point during filming when I started really resenting him. He's North Pole, I'm South. He's always coming at you with a handshake whereas I may bump into you. There was this underlying competition that got in the way of any real conversation." Fast forward to 2009, when both actors were starring in World War II dramas, Brad in Inglourious Basterds and Tom in Valkyrie. Not only was Brad's film way better received, but to add insult to injury, he reportedly called Tom's film a ridiculous movie. Number 6. Nicole Kidman. Although it's been over for decades, Nicole Kidman's marriage to Tom Cruise is still one of Hollywood's most talked about relationships. But at the time of meeting, he was still married to Mimi Rogers. Tom eventually divorced his first wife in February February of 1990, and less than 1 year later, he exchanged vows with Nicole. They even adopted 2 children, Isabella Jane and Connor Anthony, and eventually went on to make 2 more movies together as a couple. But as we all know, their marriage was far from perfect, and they ended up splitting up a decade later in 2001. Looking back on the divorce, Nicole said, quote, "I was so young when I got married. I look back now and I'm like, what?" She told Red magazine that she felt isolated during her marriage, and even when she won an Oscar, she described it as, "I was holding a gold statue and I was the loneliest I'd ever been." The divorce took Nicole by surprise, and it got very messy very quickly with the custody battle. In the end, Tom allegedly turned her children against her, as he was granted full custody of their kids, and ended up raising both of them to be Scientologists. But despite all the heartbreak, nothing beats that iconic photo of Nicole leaving her attorney's office, jumping for joy after their divorce was finalized. Number 5. Alec Baldwin. Another celebrity who has had no trouble calling out Tom Cruise was fellow actor Alec Baldwin in 2009. The Dirty Rock star hosted Elle Magazine's Women in Hollywood dinner and award show, and what he said had even Tom's wife at the time, Katie Holmes, laughing along with everyone. The actor joked about coming up with a solution to the disproportionate salaries between men and women in Hollywood, and then seemingly came up with an idea to solve the pay gap. Quote, "I believe we can balance the scales if Tom Cruise would lower his quote by a mere $29 million. I realize this may be a little bit unfair since he's not here to defend himself, and I really don't want to put all of this on one man, but if I had to, that man would be Tom Cruise." He went on to assure the audience that his own salary was nothing compared to Tom's. In fact, his annual salary, as he said, is the budget for mints that were featured in one of his movies. But as the saying goes, there really is a grain of truth in every joke. According to Variety, the actor is expected to earn $100 million or more from his new movie Top Gun Maverick, which would be one of the biggest paydays for an actor for a single movie ever. Number 4. Leah Remini. A former longtime Scientologist, King of Queens star Leah Remini opened up about her experiences in the church in her 2015 memoir Troublemaker, much to the disdain of Tom Cruise. In her book, Leah also made some shocking allegations about several well-known Hollywood celebrities. In fact, she recalled a time that she and her husband, Angelo, spent time at Tom Cruise's Beverly Hills mansion when he invited a group of well-known Scientologists and other celebrities including Will and Jada Pinkett Smith. He announced to all the guests that he wanted to play hide and seek and pressured everyone to join in. Remini also explained another bizarre incident when Tom had a meltdown over cookies. Quote, "Once he wanted to make cookies, and there was a package of pre-packaged cookie dough on the counter. He asked, 'Guys, where's the cookie stuff?' Tom seemed like a child who had never been told no, and he screamed at his assistant." And when Top Gun Maverick came out, Remini cautioned fans about supporting him, saying, "Don't let the movie star charm fool you. And no, I will not watch the movie, nor will I ever support or approve of this scam of a man." So she's clearly not one to forgive or forget. Number 3. Katie Holmes. Back in 2012, the former Hollywood power couple Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes announced to the world that they were getting a divorce after 6 years of marriage. News of the A-list split sent shockwaves through the world of show business and sparked waves of rumors and speculation as to why the pair decided to call it quits. After a whirlwind romance, the couple got married in a luxurious Italian wedding ceremony and welcomed their first child together, Suri Cruz. So their divorce came as a shock to everyone. The major reason was allegedly Katie's aversion to raising their daughter in Scientology. Tom basically confirmed this during a 2013 deposition, admitting that this was one of the reasons that his ex-wife filed for divorce. He also revealed that his daughter, Suri, who was just 7 years old at the time, was no longer a practicing member of the Church of Scientology. This was a pretty surprising admission, considering that those who leave the religion are often cut off from other practicing members, which is probably why Katie won sole custody of Suri, which reportedly included ironclad rulings that she would not be exposed to anything Scientology related. And to this day, it appears as though the former couple aren't exactly on good terms, as Tom reportedly hasn't even seen his daughter in years. Number 2. Mickey Rourke. In a new interview with Piers Morgan Uncensored, the boxer turned actor was asked about Tom Cruise, and he made it quite clear that he wasn't a fan at all. It was mentioned that his new movie, Top Gun Maverick, made over $1 billion at the box office, and Rourke said, "That doesn't mean jack to me. This guy's been doing the same effing part for 35 years. I got no respect for that." Rourke went on to list some of the actors whose careers he does enjoy and admire, unlike Tom's. And when Morgan asked whether or not he thinks of Cruise as a good actor, Rourke just said, "I think he's irrelevant in my world." And back in 2005, when Tom criticized Brooke Shields for taking antidepressants, Mickey spoke out against him then. Quote, "My therapist saved my effing life and my career. I don't care what Tom Cruise says about therapy. F him," picking on poor Brooke Shields. People need medicine and they need therapists. Let the Scientologists go effing live on a planet of their own. He was referring to the fact that Scientologists strictly oppose psychiatry and therapy as it goes against their core beliefs. So he's made it pretty clear that he doesn't think very highly of the Hollywood star. And coming in at number 1, John Travolta. Both are active, high-ranking members of the Church of Scientology, but it has been since revealed that the two are not exactly friends. The truth came out when a former bodyguard from the church, Brendan Teague, revealed in 2018 that John Travolta was furious when Tom achieved the highest honor in the organization in 2008. He was awarded the Freedom Medal of Valor from the leader of the organization, David Miscavige. This award is only given to its most dedicated member. John was also said to be frustrated over the fact that Tom has become a major player in the church, and to this day is one of the best known members in the world. Brendan Teague claimed that this event left Travolta feeling extremely jealous. Eventually he grew so angry that he decided to express himself and wrote a scathing letter to Miscavige, which reportedly included the question, "What the hell was this medal all about?" The reason being is that the actor believed himself to be the most dedicated member of the church, and had allegedly introduced more members than any other celebrity. So when he was passed over for the award, John began to despise Tom. It didn't help that only 2 years earlier, John wasn't invited to Tom's wedding with Katie Holmes, so their relationship was already rocky to begin with.
Number 10. Scott Eastwood. We've heard complaints from many of Jared Leto's past co-stars, mostly about how he tends to take his method acting to the extremes, from presenting them with a dead pig to sending them inappropriate items in the mail. It's all a bit bizarre and uncomfortable. Co-star Scott Eastwood had something to say about the actor as well, him playing GQ Edwards alongside Leto in the movie Suicide Squad. Scott said that during filming he was afraid to approach Leto, saying that while he knew the actor, he definitely didn't recognize him in his portrayal of the Joker, also saying that he was worried about affecting Jared's performance and getting in the way of the thing he had going on. While for many actors, method acting can be a good way to get into character and prepare yourself for the role, it may be too much if doing so puts everyone else on edge and makes them scared to even get near you. Number 9. Daniel Espinosa. Daniel Espinosa was the director of smash hit movie of the century Morbius, and it seems like Leto's strange behavior and overdone method acting on set was not exclusive to his role as the Joker. As Espinosa says, it was present on his set as well. He was apparently always in character, the director saying, "I almost never saw him getting into the role. It was more that Michael Morbius was on set. The moment he would exit his trailer, it would no longer be Jared Leto, and he would not want to be spoken to as Jared Leto." Espinosa does at least credit how this can be a very effective practice for many actors, and it did appear to work out for Leto. Obviously, we know his acting came out incredible, as Morbius sold 1 more billion tickets at the box office on opening weekend. Espinosa also went on to say that Jared Leto got so committed that he became scared for him, and that it was apparently very intense. He would also apparently walk around on crutches almost all the time, which frustrated everyone on set as it caused major delays in the filming day. Number 8. Denis Villeneuve. Let's hear from another director that has worked with the actor, this time from Denis Villeneuve, director of the film Blade Runner 2049. He spoke about how the actor once again committed himself to his role by wearing contact lenses that made him almost completely blind, as the character Leto was set to portray is also blind. Villeneuve said, "We all heard stories about Jared, how he transforms into the characters, but even this didn't prepare me for what was to come. He entered the room and he could not see at all. He was walking with an assistant very slowly. It was like seeing Jesus walking into a temple." Similar to Leto walking around on crutches on set for Morbius, his constant, almost permanently blind state around set frustrated people as well, as he would always have to walk with an assistant and move very slowly. It made filming very difficult and slowed down the production process. But hey, anything for the role, I guess. Number 7. Lindsay Lohan. Actress and on-again, off-again ex-girlfriend of Jared Leto, Lindsay Lohan obviously knows the guy pretty well considering all the time they spent together, especially when they co-starred in the movie Chapter 27, where Jared Leto played John Lennon's killer. Back in 2016, Lohan threw shade at Leto in regards to his portrayal of the Joker in Suicide Squad. On Instagram, she posted a collage of actors who had portrayed the character, including Leto, Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson, and notably Brandon Lee in the movie The Crow. In the caption, she said, "Who wore it better?" Who based his whole music and film career on the film The Crow, accusing Leto of having ripped off the portrayal of the character from Brandon Lee's. Lohan also added, "Every man's got a devil and you can't rest until you find him. A Suicide Squad movie is not helping the world but hurting people. Anger is not an answer for peace." So yeah, it doesn't seem like the two are still friends after their last split. Number 6. Vicky Marie Taylor. Now let's move on to what adult actress Vicky Marie Taylor had to say about the guy that she met at a party. She said that way back in 2002, she and 3 other female dancers had been invited to a post-concert party, Jared Leto being in a relationship with Cameron Diaz at the time. The girls were dancing and she had even given Leto a dance when he requested that she move over to his brother. When she did, Leto apparently came up behind her and grabbed her by the throat aggressively, whispering a statement into her ear. She said that it was an uncomfortable and weird situation, and they were only there for about 10 more minutes before they were requested to leave as they had to get back on the road for their next gig. This isn't the first time that it's been reported that Leto has gotten a bit creepy, unsettling, and aggressive during a meeting. Number 5. David Harbour. Like Lindsay Lohan, David Harbour was another celeb to throw some subtle shade at Leto's portrayal of the Joker. Back in 2018, David Harbour was getting ready to take on the role of Hellboy for the reboot of the series. When talking about the role, he started discussing how he hoped people would be on board for the reboot and that people would like his portrayal of the character. Harbour said, "I can like Michael Keaton's Batman and I can like Christian Bale's Batman. I can like Jack Nicholson's Joker and I can like Heath Ledger's Joker. There's other Jokers I don't have to like." The Joker he doesn't have to like obviously being in reference to Jared Leto's Suicide Squad character. It seems like most people who saw the movie, and even those that didn't, agreed with the Stranger Things actor's opinion. While it's fun for the viewing public to pick on a celebrity's performance, it's always amusing to see high-profile celebrities engaging in playground drama. Number 4. David Ayer. As had already been mentioned, Jared Leto's actions on the movie Suicide Squad were a bit unsettling, mostly due to the actor's penchant for method acting and completely losing himself in a character. While a lot of his co-stars commented on what it was like being on set with Leto, and even what it was like being at home and receiving disturbing things in the mail from him, director David Ayer also had something to say. We've heard from a few different directors from some of Leto's other films, so here's what Ayer said. "He constantly has to give birth to himself. He goes away, he comes back. He shoots, he goes away. The Joker is something you have to be, and you can see how exhausting and painful it is for him to be this character. But you can feel it when he comes to work. The crew feels it, everyone feels it. It's like the birds stop flying. He's terrifying." Yep, so looks like Will Smith was correct in saying that it felt like Leto went full Joker. Number 3. Todd Phillips. When director Todd Phillips recreated the character again in his dark 2019 film Joker, Jared Leto got a little bit angry. There was more beef than a cow farm. Apparently, when Suicide Squad came out, Leto had been promised his own solo Joker movie, though things obviously changed over the course of production and following the film, as Leto's time in Suicide Squad was severely cut down from the original plan, leaving him with only around 10 minutes of screen time in the film. He had been planning to be a main character and seemed to push himself a bit too far. A source saying, in his defense, it was never really his movie, but his attempt to invent a place for himself in it backfired. When he heard about the new movie not featuring him, he had complained to his agents and even requested that his music manager call the company and get the film called off. Phillips obviously made the right decision in choosing to move forward with with a different actor for the character, as his movie performed well and got mostly completely positive reviews. Number 2. Joel Kinnaman. Get out your sunglasses because we're throwing shade over here once again. And of course, if you hadn't guessed by now, it's about Leto's Joker. Actor Joel Kinnaman was doing a press tour for his upcoming show while also working on scenes for the past movie's soft reboot, The Suicide Squad. He was asked his thoughts on Joker and Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of the character, and he took the opportunity to stir up some drama and throw some shade towards Leto. The interviewer asked if Kinnaman felt like he was cheating on Leto, and he responded with, "No." Who? Joel, of course, having co-starred in Suicide Squad with Leto and obviously knowing who he is, but sounds like he's pretending he doesn't and maybe does not want to be associated with the actor. He then went on to highly praise Phoenix's take on the Clown Prince of Crime. Number 1. Jared Leto. Sometimes the easiest way to know someone's character is from that person themselves. Finding out the truth about Jared Leto and how he seems to be a bit of an out there personality didn't really take any deep digging, and much of it has come from his own mouth. So let's go through a few of the most bizarre things Jared Leto has done that should have given us a sign about who he really is. At a concert in Brazil, he flipped off a fan who didn't know the correct lyrics to his songs. He has told both a fan and a sound technician to F off, said that playing the Joker was extremely difficult and was like giving birth out of his prick hole, said he lies whenever possible during interviews, he was rude to his henchman co-stars on Suicide Squad, requesting them to do ridiculous tasks for him, and he once walked out of an interview after yelling expletives at the reporter. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg. You can find plenty more if you want to look it up for yourself.
Number 10. The open relationship. After reports swirled that Brad Pitt was dating German model Nicole Putarowski, who looks a little bit like a younger version of Angelina, the world was set into a tailspin. But fans were a little bit confused when they found out that the model was already married to a much older man named Roland Mary, a German restaurateur who's 41 years her senior. Not only that, but Pitt allegedly met her through her husband. A source told the Daily Mail that Brad had been coming to Roland's restaurant for years, and he was then introduced to his wife Nicole, and she passed him her number. The two of them were eventually spotted in the south of France at Chateau Miraval, the estate he shared with Angelina. To make matters worse, the trip allegedly occurred near what would have been his and Jolie's wedding anniversary. But however scandalous the relationship was, it was always a little ambiguous as to whether there was any cheating involved, especially considering that Nicole is quite philosophical about the whole open marriage deal, and her husband seemed alright with the arrangement. So was the whole thing a little bit strange? Yes, but not necessarily wrong. Number 9. The foundation scandal. After Hurricane Katrina, Brad Pitt's Make It Right Foundation built 109 eye-catching and affordable homes in New Orleans for a community where people were displaced by the damage since 2005. But according to Pop Science, the vast majority of the homes are riddled with construction-related problems that have led to mold, termites, rotting wood, flooding, and although some of the structures are not yet a decade old, out of all the homes built, only 6 reportedly remain in reasonably good shape to this day. Most either have had partial repairs or have been completely renovated because of structural problems, with at least 6 houses totally boarded up and abandoned. As a result, in 2018, Brad and his foundation were hit with a class action lawsuit alleging that the homes they built were structurally unsound, with faulty foundations, electrical issues, and some with incorrectly installed gas meters, putting their homes at risk of gas leaks and explosions. The actor took credit for launching Make It Right in 2007, serving as its public face for years, but when his lawyers argued that he could not be sued over the developmental failings, a judge ruled that the movie star would remain a defendant because of his role as the organization's founder and chief fundraiser. Number 8. Dissing Jennifer Aniston. Jen told Vanity Fair in 2005 that while she doubted her ex-husband was deliberately malicious, she explained that when it comes to Brad, there's a sensitivity chip that's missing. That might just be true when you look at his Parade magazine interview in 2011. The actor gave a rather unflattering description of his life and marriage with Jen. Brad felt that he wasn't living an interesting life wife, and in the 5 years that he was with the Friends star, he was trying to pretend the marriage was something it wasn't. Quote, "I started getting sick of myself sitting on the couch holding a joint hiding out. It started feeling pathetic. It became very clear to me that I was intent on trying to find a movie about an interesting life, but I wasn't living an interesting life myself. I think that my marriage had something to do with it." To make matters worse, when asked about life with Angelina in comparison, he admitted that he was finally a satisfied man. After receiving backlash for the interview that was basically insinuating that Jen was boring, Brad had to do some major damage control and went on to clarify his comments. Quote, "It grieves me that this was interpreted this way. The point I was trying to make is not that Jen was dull, but that I was becoming dull to myself and that I am responsible for." So at least he was able to clear that up because it probably hurt Jen quite a lot. Number 7, the judge issue. Like many celebrity couples, Pitt and Jolie opted to hire their own judge to increase their privacy in the divorce proceedings. But that became yet another point of contention for the former couple when Angelina fought for their judge to be disqualified from the case. She scored a major victory point in the divorce when the California Appeals Court agreed with her that Judge John W. Outerkirk didn't sufficiently disclose prior business relationships with Brad's attorneys and considered that a conflict of interest. Angelina was actually able to prove that the private judge that Brad had advocated for failed to disclose the cases that revealed a close relationship between the judge and her ex-husband's legal team. On their part, they were quick to deny any impropriety and pointed out that Judge Outerkirk actually officiated the couple's wedding, but the District Court of Appeal felt that it was an ethical breach and doubted the judge's ability to be impartial. So it was a bit of a shady move on the part of Brad's lawyers, but it might have just been all for nothing, as in 2020 Brad was granted joint custody of his children with a tentative ruling, much to Angelina's frustration. Number 6, avoiding child support. In August of 2018, Angelina accused Brad of not paying any meaningful child support for their 6 children after the divorce. The actor countered that he had actually loaned her $8 million to buy a home, plus $1.3 million for bills. Angelina's attorneys slammed Brad in a statement to Us Weekly, citing the incident of September 2016 as the reason that Angelina and the children needed to move from the family home. Her rep further insinuated that he was charging her interest on a payment plan, and that she will of course honor that loan. Quote, "A loan is not, however, child support, and to represent it as such is misleading and inaccurate." The rep added that Angelina was requesting that Brad pay 50% of the kids' expenses, because she has had to shoulder the majority of those without his contribution for the past 2 years. Quote, "Child support is not optional in California. Typically, a father of means would pay these expenses voluntarily without the need for a request or a court order." The former couple's constant back and forth fighting over finances still hasn't ended. In fact, Brad is reportedly suing his ex-wife for allegedly secretly selling their $116 million winery without his knowledge. Number 5, whitewashing. We certainly can't talk about red flags without bringing up the controversy surrounding Bullet Train. Brad has recently come under fire for allegedly whitewashing Japanese culture in his new blockbuster movie, which is an accusation that has his fans divided. The action-packed movie takes place in Japan on a high-speed train heading from Tokyo to Kyoto, which sounds great except for the fact that the majority of the cast involved are from Western countries and are not ethnically Japanese, leading many to accuse the filmmakers of insensitive casting choices. As Brad is the film's main lead, a lot of the criticism naturally falls on his shoulders, not to mention the fact that his character was originally written as Japanese in the source material. Not only are the majority of the film's main cast white, but the passengers of the Bullet Train are largely white as well, while the few background actors that do appear to be Japanese have no prominence in the story or speaking lines. The movie is based on a novel by the same name, written by author Katara Izaka, who has stood by the casting choices, but people are still upset regardless, because similar instances of whitewashing have occurred in recent movies, like Doctor Strange or Ghost in the Shell, so audiences are becoming increasingly frustrated with miscasting. Number 4, the lighting lawsuit. Odile Soudan was once considered a friend of Brad and Angelina before they ran into some major issues. In fact, the famous French designer ended up suing the couple in 2017 over massive unpaid bills for the lighting in their Chateau Miraval home. Soudan claimed that the former couple simply stopped paying for her work that she did on 4 4 buildings of their 40-room mansion in France. While she did not have a written contract with the former couple per se, she claims that Brad gave her the green light to do whatever she wanted to make their home beautiful. Sudon took him at his word and racked up a $29 million bill in the process. She hired architects, designers, lighting and acoustic specialists, and even went to an optical engineer to calculate the angle of the sun's rays on the chateau. But she soon noticed that the former couple stopped paying for her project after her billings reached around $6 million. Before the lawyers got involved, Brad emailed her insisting that he was a fan of her work and that she should not legally attack them because they could figure it out amongst themselves. But it was no use, as in 2017 they were ordered to pay her roughly $674,000, including extra for damaging her reputation. Number 4. Dating Juliette Lewis. When they met on the set of Too Young to Die, Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis were infatuated with each other and went on to date for 3 years. The film was quite a big break for both actors, who were still climbing the Hollywood ladder at the time, but it was clearly a great romance, as years later Brad would go on to label the relationship as one of the greatest. So why was it a red flag? Well, he was 27 at the time and she was only 17. But it was the 90s, right? Well, no, actually, it was always a little bit creepy, considering the fact that Juliette was still in high school at the time. When speaking about the whirlwind romance, she told Daily Mail in 2010, quote, "I was a teenager at the time. It was a lifetime away. I was in my high school years and it was a wonderful, loving relationship with a fun, smart guy. Then it was over and he went on to become incredibly famous." The duo certainly seemed in love, as they were constantly hitting up red carpet events together, like the premiere for Thelma and Louise or The Last of the Mohicans. But the relationship was still a questionable one and falls into a morally grey area because of Juliette's age at the time. Number 2. Working with Weinstein. In a recent interview, Angelina Jolie opened up to The Guardian about her experience with the disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein, speaking about his unwanted advances. Quote, "It was something I had to escape. I stayed away and warned people about him. I was asked to do The Aviator, but I said no because he was involved. I never associated or worked with him again. It was hard for me when Brad did." She went on to admit that it was very difficult for her when Brad continued to work with him, despite the fact that he tried to take advantage of her when she was 21. The couple fought over Brad's decision to take on Inglourious Basterds in 2009, which was distributed and co-financed by the Weinstein Company, and again in 2012 when he approached Weinstein to produce his film Killing Them Softly. Angelina makes it clear that Brad was well aware of what happened to her and went against her wishes anyway, which caused a great deal of pain. The actor made headlines for an interview with CNN, condemning Weinstein, and spoke about a time that he confronted him for preying on his then girlfriend Gwyneth Paltrow. So it's safe to assume he always knew about the Hollywood predator and was still happy to keep working with him. Number 1. Accusations of domestic violence. Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's separation has been anything but a smooth process since it began, back in 2016. Their divorce seems to become messy and messier as years go by, especially after a disturbing allegation by Angelina last year, who filed court documents against her ex-husband that claimed that she was a victim of domestic violence. In fact, the court documents state that the actress and her children are willing to offer proof and authority in support of these allegations. She also agreed to provide testimony, along with the testimony of minor children. So where did this serious accusation come from? Well, in 2016, news broke that an altercation on a flight from Nice, France to Los Angeles had ultimately sparked the reason for the couple's divorce, as Brad was drinking heavily on the flight and allegedly physically hurt their oldest son, Maddox. He was subsequently investigated by the Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services and cleared. Brad reportedly told the FBI that he had shouted at his son, but insisted that he did not attempt to physically harm him, his wife, or any of their other children. The actor has since also admitted that he was facing difficulties with alcohol at the time and attended Alcoholics Anonymous following the divorce. So it's possible that the incident was just a family argument that happened to escalate.